Hey there, it's Mike Rowe. This is The Way I Heard It, the only podcast for the curious mind with a short attention span. Episode 141 is upon us. I call it On Average 15 times a day. On average 15 times a day. Why do I call it that? Because that's what the experts say. On average 15 times a day. The story, like many tales on the podcast, was inspired by something I saw on television years ago. A really remarkable moment, not an unexampled moment, but something I hadn't seen unfold before. And I was fascinated not just by the event, but by the way in which the players comported themselves in its aftermath. It struck me, as I ruminated upon it, that it was a very uniting kind of thing to do. And it seems to me that nowadays, especially, we need stories that unite us and not divide us. So I believe this will do that. I certainly hope so, because on average it happens 15 times a day. Sponsored by HomeServe. The entire month has been sponsored by my friends at HomeServe, for which I am very grateful. HomeServe covers just about everything in my home with a plan that is waiting to make my life very, very simple when my stuff breaks. And my stuff is going to break. So is yours. As a relatively new homeowner, I got the memo on this fairly obvious, inevitable reality early in. And HomeServe just, well, they have a plan for plumbing and heating and electric and air conditioning and my appliances. And they're terrific. And I'm getting questions now because people listen to the podcast and they ask me why HomeServe. There are a bunch of companies doing this. And I tell them, honestly, two reasons. First of all, I did my homework and I just couldn't find anybody with anywhere near the customer service ratings. 4.8 out of 5 stars, A+, Better Business Bureau, 4 million satisfied customers in this country alone. Nobody comes close to them. But then I also had a chance to meet the CEO, a guy named Tom Rusin. And we worked on some materials together not long ago. And this guy is such a freak for customer service. I've never met anyone like him. He gives his personal email address to HomeServe customers. And he really wants your feedback. And it's not a gimmick. It's the real deal. And I'm impressed with the company. I think they provide a great service. They have a terrific app that's free that you can get when you go to homeserve.com/Mike that'll organize all the appliances in your home for you in a cool way. But mostly, if you go to homeserve.com/Mike, you can save up to 50% on any of their plans right now. That's homeserve.com/Mike. They're awesome. They take customer service super seriously. And that's something I'm happy to say, on average, 15 times a day. This is the way I heard it. As Claire Danes shared her thoughts on the importance of counterintelligence in a post-9/11 world, Karen squirmed uncomfortably on the couch beside her and pretended to listen. Did Claire Danes know anything about espionage or counterintelligence? Probably not. But she did play a CIA analyst on a TV show called Homeland, a role that apparently qualified her to weigh in on matters of national security. But Karen's discomfort on that particular morning had nothing to do with the topic of conversation or the opinions expressed by Claire Danes. Her discomfort was physical and brought about by a level of gastrointestinal restraint to which she was entirely unaccustomed. In other words, Karen was trying not to break wind on live television. Like Benjamin Franklin, who wrote extensively on this very topic in his seminal essay, Fart Proudly, Karen was strongly opposed to denying the gas in her bowels a speedy exodus, if that's what the gas desired. She had always believed that holding back that which was destined to vacate the premises was fundamentally unhealthy, a fact her friends and co-workers knew all too well. On the other hand, Karen respected Claire Danes and had no desire to interrupt her, especially while she was holding forth on the unpleasant realities of Islamic jihad. More to the point, the discomfort in her colon was ambiguous and shifting, making it difficult to anticipate the type of flatulence she was trying to suppress or the sound it was liable to make. It could be a fizz or a fazz, a poot or an anti-poot, none of which would have been terribly disruptive, but it could have just as easily been a classic, a tear-ass, a squeeze-through, or, God forbid, a murky, that unfortunate mix of air and fluid whose unpredictable emergence often required a visit to the restroom. True, it could also be a whisper, but hoping for a completely silent exit was risky, especially after the breakfast burrito she wolfed down before the show. So, as Claire Danes transitioned from radical Islam to counter-espionage and American hegemony, Karen focused on the important business of keeping her sphincter shut. Meanwhile, at the other end of her GI tract, another packet of vapor left Karen's rumbling stomach and entered her small intestines, where it began its own march toward freedom. Sensing this new advance, Karen crossed her legs and hoped the fumes might find a cubbyhole in which to pause along the way, a nook in the duodenum, perhaps, or a cranny in the sacrum. Maybe, somewhere in the folds of her ilium, the unwelcome exhaust would linger until the commercial break, when she could blast it out with impunity. Alas, it was not to be. For in the midst of her increasing discomfort, Karen made a rookie mistake. She glanced down at the monitor between the cameras to see if she looked as uncomfortable as she felt. Damn, she thought, these new high-definition cameras really are a nightmare. She was right. Every flaw was highlighted, every pore magnified, and there, on the giant monitor, she couldn't help but notice the sweat beading on her upper lip, along with the conspicuous absence of her eyebrows, which, she had to admit, suddenly appeared more absent than ever. She thought, maybe I should allow them to grow back. And that's when it happened. All it took was a momentary lapse of concentration for the gas to make its escape. A noisy blast that ripped through the studio at ABC, stopped Claire Danes mid-sentence, entered Karen's microphone, and sent the unmistakable sound of a classic fart flying into millions of homes all over America. Thanks to YouTube, Karen's inconvenient wind is now preserved for posterity, along with her sublime reaction, which really is the very personification of grace under fire. Watch it for yourself, and you'll see that Karen doesn't pretend it didn't happen, nor does she pretend it wasn't her. She simply looks down at her own ass in something like bemusement, arches one of her non-existent eyebrows, and apologizes without a hint of embarrassment. In other words, she owns it. It's a courageous response, inspirational even. Why? Because Karen's reaction not only illustrates our collective reliance on the modest O-ring upon which so much of our dignity depends, it reminds us that Americans fart, on average, no less than 15 times a day. A shocking but verifiable statistic that should serve to unite us all in these divided times. Obviously, by her own admission, Karen Johnson has always farted a lot more than the average American. That's why she no longer goes by Karen. She changed her name long ago to honor the sound that she, like Ben Franklin before her, was never ashamed to make. I refer, of course, to the sound that's synonymous with a certain cushion, the sound that prompted the co-host who famously farted on The View to change her name from Karen to Whoopi. How she got from Johnson to Goldberg, well, that's another story. Anyway, that's the way I heard it. A quick thanks to Whoopi Goldberg for inspiring that story. I hope she's not offended. I met Whoopi a couple years ago. She's friends with Chuck Klausmeyer, the producer of this podcast, and our mutual friend Rico Colantoni. And obviously, she has a sense of humor, and she talks about this kind of thing all the time. So I can't imagine she's put off. I'll let you know if she is, and maybe you'll let me know if you are. Statistically, there's probably somebody out there listening to this podcast for the first time and wondering if I write mostly about bodily functions. No, I don't. But deep inside, there's an 8-year-old, and he gets out from time to time. And like I said, my hope was to ruminate on something that we all share in common. Maybe you're over 15 times a day, or under 15 times a day, or right at 15 times a day. Hey, let me know over on my Facebook page. I'd be curious to know. I'm coming in around 10 or 11, to be honest with you, but I've been eating a lot of meat here of late. Hey, my book is out today. Big day for me. The Way I Heard It is on bookshelves as we speak, and you can still grab a copy at micro.com/book if you'd rather. Thank you so much for your support, and my apologies for flogging this thing so hard, but you know how it goes. Publishing. It's a bloodbath. Anyway, am I back next week with a new story? I don't think so. I think it's the week after next. But either way, I'll be here with something fresh before you know it. Talk to you soon.